conditions that are sobering. Now we are going to call Prof Nekherofo Motshekga. He's the founder and the executive chairperson of the Heritage Institute. Prof, we are waiting for you.
Bishop Huan Motshekga. I've been requested or instructed by the steering committee to talk to you in this national dialogue themed the healing, cleansing, renewal, for nation building and social cohesion. You will have heard the leader of the pastor here, the message that he gave, and the Babandofu, the message that he gives. They confirm what our leader, the convener and leader of the steering committee, said. To say there are people who have been working hard to make us forget who we are, where we come from, why we are here, and what is our destiny. So on behalf of the leaders of the steering committee, we think that we are coming here was not because we were looking for free time. You were being called upon for a bigger responsibility. You heard from Babandofu that the ruling party is given 5 years and is going to get 60 to 70%. But these 5 years is to right what went wrong, because our generation, who like to be called corporate leader, we have spent time leading people into the wilderness. But apparently we are being forgiven and given a chance to right what went wrong. You can look through the whole continent of Africa. Things are not going well because we forgot that there is no nation which can exist unless it has a soul and respects that soul. We think that you can lead a country which has no soul. We think you can lead a country where there is just politics. Politics alone will never work. Politics alone have not worked anywhere. That's why Mandela told us about the reconstruction and development of the soul. Today, the soul is gone. We think that we can replace the soul with politics. It's not going to work. So today, we have an opportunity to return to the soul. Even a communist, Xi Jinping, says that a nation must have a soul. Now, that's why, as our leader has said, we purposefully invited the kings and queens, we invited the chiefs, and we invited the Izinyang, not traditional healers, Izinyang. Because before Jan van Riebeeck came, we were not as sick as we are today. We didn't even houses called clinics, but we were healthy. Why? Now the people who present us until Jan van Riebeeck arrived, we say they are witches, they are traditional healers, and we still have a law on the statute which says suppression of witchcraft. Who are these witches that were suppressed? Where do they live? And now our children are fed that lie. Then they grow about banning old women who are poor because of apartheid, and they say no, they date because they are witches. We consciously today invited leaders of the healers of our nation. We have here an organization called Mibasa, led by Comrade Solini Bubu. If you can stand up to see. We have an organization called Traditional Healers Organization, which was formed by my friend and old man Motshekga, and I don't know who's leading that organization. What's my name? We have an organization called South African Traditional Healers Association, led by Dr. Minami. Where is Dr. Minami? So in 1997, President Mandela said one very important. He said that we have African heritage. Now the custodians of the African heritage are the kings and queens. And I can tell you from personal knowledge, there is no true king or queen who does not have a Nyanga nation. Because those are the people that can talk to the royal and family ancestors. And we had Ubabandofu saying, there is no prophet now. We have what we call Zomo. Zomo is mouth, Ra of Zimu is God. Zomorazimu means the mouthpiece of God. And some people say, if you talk about ancestors, you are talking about generals. But the same people, Bishop Mpuan, on Sunday go to church and say, why was Namua Shaka, one judge, one Makabo, one treasure, Abraham, and Nasazagaba? He will yard by Lingua child. None of my ancestors, royal and family ancestors, are not junior to any ancestor anywhere in the world. And if I want to approach God, I will go to my family ancestors, my royal ancestors, my God and gods, and then 30. Now, you see, healing, cleansing, and renewal. Politicians talk about those three words, but they cannot succeed unless you spiritual people, you royal people are there. If you look at what's happening in our country, it's very disturbing. A small country of 60 million people has 40 political parties. Now, ask them what do they want to do. They say they want to remove ANC from power. Their job is to remove the ANC from power. but they don't tell us to do what. Others say we want to rescue the country. From what? If not from themselves. Others say we want to create jobs. The petrol attendants will get so many and so much. These are all political lies. Now, we have heard from Babandu to say ANC is given 5 years to go and correct its mistakes. Those mistakes can only be corrected if you stand up and say this country doesn't belong to those who need it. It belongs to our gods and ancestors. We must root ourselves in our ancestors, and we must know that we are caretakers of this country. And therefore, these many people who want to become presidents and vice presidents are not going to take this country because they don't talk about the roots that Babandu are talking about. So anybody who leaves the royal ancestors and the family ancestors of this country is not going to rule this country. That's why our ancestors, the founders of the African National Congress, say we will get more than 60%. Let's go out and work for that 60%. But to root ourselves, we must call Kesalama Ket. Wena uphethe amagumbo amanamhla. Kesalama Ket. Wena uphethe amagumbo amanamhla. Mudimu wabadimu. Wena utshwere mathuko amanamhla. Ndabona mangaka a rena hapa. Ba tla sheba ruthabela, ba shebe borwa, ba shebe bokikela, ba shebe lebopo. Those are the 4 quarters of the earth. What happens when you read the Bible? You will hear that there are 4 holy beasts before the throne of God. Those 4 holy beasts in Africa before the Bible came, we call them the cherubim. The Jewish, because they are our children, they call them the cherubim. The Muslims, because they are our children, they call them the Al-Caribbean. That shows that these many religions actually are one religion. We talk about one. But today, there are more religious bodies than the people. More religious bodies than the people. And now, what is it that they're teaching? The whole, these things have become commercial entities. That's why even when you go to some of them, the first thing they preach about money. So let's go back to the tradition of the Izinyanga. Izinyanga, you go to them, they do what they do, they give you muti and say, go. If you are healed, come back and say thank you. There's no price. And they say go, but if because life comes from God and the ancestors. And how long we stay on earth depends on them. And if you serve them, they will keep you longer because you are useful to us, to the country and to the people. But if you are only here to serve yourself and your family, there's no God who can extend your life. But let me then, because the chair said we must not talk too much. Let me say the following: that the kings and queens are earthly representatives of God. God on earth. That's why we respect them. The kings and queens are the ones who waged the wars of resistance against British imperialism and apartheid colonialism. Now, all those people had Isinyanga next to them. You know why Mandela did not cry when he went to prison? Because the Khanyan told him that you are going to prison for 27 years. But when you come back, you're going to rule. Mandela came and ruled. But he never said, I went to the second, third, and fourth term. Because he was given 5 years to do the right thing. And he did the right thing. But President Thabo Mbeki has told us what went wrong. So now, none of us should say we don't know what went wrong. Maybe that speech must be circulated to all of us so that we know what went wrong. So today, tomorrow when we leave here, all of you must become the activists for the new order. Now, I want to talk about that new order. The steering committee agreed that we must have an African regeneration initiative. So we want to invite all of you and all your organizations to become part of that African regeneration initiative. Where does that come from? There was a young man who was studying at Columbia University in the US called Pixley Isaga. He gave a speech on in April 1906 at Columbia University. The speech was titled The Regeneration of Africa. And he defined himself as an African. And many people don't know that the word Africa is not a racial term. The root of the word Africa is the monosyllable word Ra. But Ra, meaning father. The Khoisan say Ba. The Nguni people say Ba. The Sotho say Ndate. Baba. Now this Baba Ra doesn't refer in the first place to the Father on earth. It refers to the Father in heaven. Ubaba wasezulwini, umukani yezulu, isilo samabandla, thobela yamashaka. So when we respect the Zulu king and say isilo, we say isilo because he's a representative of isilo ezulwini. When we say Mujajika Thobela, we respect her because she represents the King of Heaven called Mambo Wedenda. So our spirituality, therefore, is not rooted on earth. That's why you'll never where black people, African people worship. You'll never see pictures of God or their ancestors, because the ancestors are spiritual or light beings, and therefore you can't have a picture of a light being. Now, if we want to liberate ourselves and go spiritual, because Seme said a new civilization will be added to the world. That civilization will be spiritual, humane, and prosperous. Now we focus on prosperity. We forget humanism, African humanism, Ubuntu. And then we forget our spirituality. Our spirituality connects us with our royal and family ancestors connect us with God. So what lets us down now is that even in our schools, there are people who come with baboons walking on four and say we were baboons before. It's the biggest lie on earth. There's no human being who was ever a baboon. But now, Bishop, the religious people like yourself, eminent religious leaders, don't stand up and say the education system led by my wife must stop. Must stop teaching that we were baboons before. Because if we were baboons before, it means there's no heaven. When we die, when a baboon dies, it's finished. But Tina, when we die, it's the body that dies. The spirit continues. I went looking my roots, I went to Venda. One old man and his friend took me, one old man and his friend took me to a place which they say gets visited by the Queen of Heaven in the form of a bed of heaven. The Queen of Heaven is Muwari Wedenga, or Muwari Wedenga, or Mwali. Muwari, the word Muwari in Sotho is Muhali. And that's why we remember Mahali Spectator Muhali. And then in Zulu is Mwali Nkulu. I always say the Zulus are lazy. The name Mwali Nkulu, they throw away Mwali, let's just say Nkulu. So we must remind them that the complete word is Mwali Nkulu. And then the Tsonga say is Nwari or Shikwembu. And the vendor say it's Nwali. I'm sure you heard from the pastor. They were calling Nwali. Now that Queen of Heaven is the mother of the spiritual or divine being called Kara or Karao. And the sun that you see has no light. The light in the sun comes from the spiritual sun behind it, which means in the heavens, there are no human beings in our form, black or white. That's where true equality exists. Because here we judge ourselves according to the color. And after death, the color does not exist. So we are wasting our time fighting amongst ourselves because others will say I'm light-skinned, others say I'm brown, others are calling, so many things. A human being is first and foremost a spiritual or a light being. And if we start from there, there will be no racism, there will be no tribalism, there will be no ethnic discrimination. Now, let me come to the point and finish. In heaven, you heard from the chair, there is Uvelina, the unknown and unknowable God. So nobody can have a picture of God. God is unknown and unknowable. And that God is also called Mutangiwa Kuga, the first one to live. Is also that Mutangiwa Kuga, who is unknown, manifested itself as a woman. So those who think that in heaven there's a big man sitting there looking after us, they are wasting their time. The spiritual mother comes before the spiritual father. Actually, the spiritual father is the messenger of the spiritual mother. That's why the church is right to talk about the Black Madonna and child when you come to the physical world. Now, this spiritual man, Mambo Wedenga, is symbolized by the sun. The Bible will tell you that there are 4 holy beasts before the throne of God. They were afraid to say there are 4 holy beasts before the throne of the sun God. That sun is surrounded by 4 holy beasts, which take the form of 4 southern stars. These southern stars correspond with the 4 quarters of the world. That's why when Izinyanga pray, they call on the governors of the 4 quarters of the world. And the sun itself, it consists of spirit, soul, and body. So the sun is 3 times. When you add the 3 of the sun plus the 4 holy beasts, you have 7. Then when you go to the church, you see they light 7 candles. Those 7 candles also represent the 7 Pleiades stars, which form the round wall of heaven. Now, these stars are inhabited by people called Warozi, Agalozi. These are spiritual gods for everybody, whether you are white, black, colored, and anything. So in heaven, those who govern us are the same. So there's no racism in heaven. So racism is created by us here because of ignorance. We are ignorant of the truth, and therefore we create tribalism, racism, and all these things. Now, you know some people who are lazy. They buy a Sowetan. They look for the zodiac, the stars. Someone says, I was born as Iris, and they read under Iris to say, no, it means I'm going to have luck. Others say, I'm born under Pisces, and then they read and say, I'm going to have luck. Those things are lies. You know, when we came to earth, we were sent to come and perform some duties. So go to our ancestors, talk to our ancestors, talk to our royal ancestors. They will tell you what you were sent to the world to do. Don't look at these papers. Now, the 12 signs which are called the zodiac are inhabited. They separate the spiritual world from the material world. And they are inhabited by what are called the servants of the sun, Shenshu Hara, or Horus kings. These are also called lion kings, Wundoro or Wundorondoro, or Vantare or Vantarentare, or Vakale or Vakale. They constitute the great solar brotherhood society. So you say, why this man talks about things in heaven? Because the people who go to the moon with machines, they are wasting their time. Up there is spiritual world. They will not find anything. Sometimes they even show us pictures as if they've landed on the moon when they are lying. So we should go back ourselves, reconnect, as the chair said, with our royal ancestors, with our God. We will find the truth, not by flying to the moon. Now, you know why there's a war on Gaza? You know why Gaza is becoming a graveyard for women and children? It's because if you read the Bible correctly, God is worried about the Jews all the time. They have a tendency of not anti-Semitism. I'm reading the Bible. What happens? Abraham comes into Africa. He gives his wife to a black man. The black man has a child with his wife called Isaac. And then Isaac gives birth to Esau and Jacob, who were colored. That's why some people call themselves black Jews. Now, who are the children of Isaac? It's Jacob. Jacob is called Israel. And there are 12 tribes of Israel. Even they are children. And Abraham marries Hagar, a black woman. And she has a child, Ishmael. Now there is a war in Israel. It's only Africa and Africans who can end that war. Because we think now that we can't do anything without referring to Israel. Others are Muslim, others are Israelites. That's why it's South Africa that intervened and took the matter to court. The Russians and the Ukrainians are fighting because they are younger. Who has to go there? It's Africa that must go and intervene. So all I am saying, you have a responsibility bigger than you think. You are bigger, as Mandela says, beyond measure. So if South Africa, Africa is here, the world is finished. So the first task that we have, we must make sure we go and vote correctly. Nekherofo says there's 5 years that we are given to solve things. If we can solve South African problems, we will solve African problems, we will solve the world problems. You see this flag of the Jews, 2 triangles on top of each other. If you read, that flag stands for the planet Mars, Saturn, Mercury, Jupiter, and Venus. In the middle, there must be a circle which symbolizes the sun. The Jews removed the circle in the middle, and then in other words, they removed God from their symbol. And as a result, they don't see anything in killing women and children. So, Bishop, we need the interfaith movement in this country. It's too quiet about the killings there. And now the killings will come here. There's El Shabaab in Kenya, there is Boko Haram in Nigeria, there is ISIS here in Mozambique. So that war will come to us unless we stand up and educate people. So we need African spiritual renaissance to teach those who think that other people must be converted by force. We must persuade people to believe what we believe in, but not use their arms to do that. Lastly, Islam. We make one mistake. By following a Roman calendar, which says the new year is on the 1st of January. Mr. January was a drunkard. And on the 1st, he used to drink and be drunk and fall on women and children, and then even undress himself because he was too drunk. That's why now, during January, New Year, we go and buy a lot of liquor. But on the 2nd, we must go to work. The African calendar says the following, that at the beginning of September, there are 7 stars that appear in heaven. Zilimela, Kilimela, Chirimela. When those stars appear, they are saying to us that God and God say the new year is starting. That's why we light the 7 candles. So we cleanse, we do cleansing, the cleansing that we are now talking about. we cleanse the field, we thank our ancestors for the new year. In October, we hold rainmaking ceremonies, and then in November, we say we don't kill female animals, we don't cut trees. In December, we celebrate first fruit festivals, and then in March, we celebrate harvest. In May, on the 1st of May, we say workers' rights. It's important to respect the workers. Even our constitution say we must honor the workers who live in the country. But the 1st of May, that's the birthday of the Queen of Heaven. And then Africa Month, the 21st of May, there is a star called Nanga Born Stars, which appear before dawn in heaven to tell us that the Son of God, or the Son of the Queen of Heaven, is being born 25th of May. So the 1st and 25th of May were religious holidays in Africa. Some people say they want to do ancestor day on the 8th of May. There's no ancestor on the 1st of May. On the 21st of May is the birth of Mundu. Mundu, Muntu, Mutu, the firstborn child of the sun. So if, and in the church, they celebrate that as Saints' Days or St. John's and St. John's Day. On the 21st of September, it is the birthday of the second Son of God. And then in December the 25th, the birthday of the Son of God that people call Jesus. And then on the 21st of March is the day when the sun dies in the southern hemisphere for 3 days and rises on the 3rd day in the north. And then in the church they say is the death and resurrection of Jesus. So in other words, we need to reinterpret history and go back to this question of IKS. So, but the chair directed us to say today is not a day for long speeches, but say what you want to say. And we belong to different organizations who have different interpretations of things. It doesn't matter. Stay in your organization, but we must have one agenda. That one agenda is the African regeneration movement that must bring all our people together. If we have differences, let's deal with our differences internally for the purpose of consolidating our unity so that we can take this country and Africa and the world forward. We, under President Cyril Ramaphosa, we have already emerged as a world leader, and if we weaken South Africa, we are weakening ourselves. We are not weakening Ramaphosa. So let's stand up and move on. Richard Tobane, Richard Tobane,
Get it, Tobane.